for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator, thank you for being here today. I cannot imagine how bad your head must be hurting going through this entire line of questioning, but we do appreciate your time and your effort for being here. I have a couple of questions. On January 14th of this year, I sent a letter along with 14 other members who sat on this committee and subcommittees with 3 questions about your agency's plan to send U.S. federal employees overseas to help countries meet emission targets that were set at the Conference of Paris at the end of last year. We requested the answers by January 29th. It is now March 22nd, and we have yet to hear from anybody. Are you aware of this letter? Have you received this letter?
I'm sure the agency has. I will double check on the response. Is this specific to Paris, or is this
This is
more
specific
broad?
to Paris, to a statement that you made while speaking to send federal employees, EPA employees, over to other countries to help them identify emissions. Are you familiar with that?
Not particularly, but I'll certainly look at it.
You gave a speech at the Council of Foreign Relations, okay, and you mentioned that the meetings that the EPA will deploy employees to certain countries to help these countries learn how to identify and measure sources of greenhouse gas emissions. The letter that we sent to you specifically asked 3 different questions. Now, one, I do have a letter here with me that I'll be happy to give to you, and I'd like to submit it also for record. I have a copy for you to have. It asks 3 questions, and those 3 questions, since you're here today, I'm going to go ahead and ask you. 1, how many U.S. federal employees will be deployed to participate in these countries?
I don't know the answer to that question, sir. I think you're referring to the work we do with the Department of State to do capacity building in other countries. Very often
that may be true, but in your statement you said that the EPA was going to deploy these.
EPA does do that, but we often get resourced from the Department of State for those activities.
So how many employees do you plan on sending? I mean, you're here today to talk about your budget, and I'm kind of concerned that the EPA is using taxpayer dollars to send employees to other countries to help them with a non-binding agreement that was set in Paris.
Well, the kind of resources that we have in our international unit is actually very small. If we want to utilize more for a purpose like this, which is our capacity building related to the Paris Agreement, then it usually is the Department of State provides us those direct resources.
Well, we have reached out personally from my office. The Oversight Committee has also reached out to 0 response. None.
Okay, sir.
Your office has yet to respond back to us. We asked for January 29th. And so once again, I'll ask these 3 questions. If you don't have the answers, I'd really appreciate you getting back to us in a timely manner, which hasn't happened so far. 1 was how many federal employees are going to be deployed. 2nd, how long will these employees be deployed? And 3rd, what will the cost be to deploy?
Okay, sir, I'll go check on the response. And
do you have any answers to that right now?
I do not know the answers to those questions.
Do you think it's appropriate to send individuals from the EPA that are being paid by taxpayer dollars from the United States to help countries meet a non-binding agreement?
Sir, we do work internationally because pollution knows no boundaries.
How much do you spend in the EPA working in other countries? Does the EPA, I mean, because we have a hard enough time dealing with you guys in the United States, much less in other countries.
We have very few resources in this regard, but we utilize them in
what are the resources?
A lot of time training trainers in other countries to.
You say very little. What is that number? I mean, you're referring to a specific number by saying very little. How much is that number?
Well, let me tell you.
I would appreciate that.
This has to do with the total number of grants is less than 1%.
What is that 1%? What does that represent in dollar amounts?
1.6 million.
1.6, and that's not including what the State Department helps offset. Is that correct?
That would be our resources that the State Department would.
Can you give me?
Oh, I'm sorry. That includes State Department.
That includes the State Department?
Is that what you said?
Come from other federal agencies.
let me get back to you.
I'd appreciate the total numbers if you don't mind. I'm out of time, but I would like to make sure in a timely manner that you respond back to us, because once again, this is talking about budget and we're talking about dollars spent here. Thank you.
And also, I mean, that's a very good point. We would like to know the total dollar value of the grants given to other countries by EPA.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. At this time,